Good evening and welcome to BarbWire Strategy. My name is Colonel Jim Ed Love. Thank you for joining me, and to all of the millions and millions, well, maybe I don't have millions and millions of viewers, but to those of you who do watch the show, and I do appreciate it, I just wanted to sum up here where we are in this series. Originally, I had planned to do 5 shows. And the 5 shows, the first one was going to be, as if you've been keeping up, was going to be on the ice storm that hit back in February and how it tore the hell out of my wood shop and the ceiling collapsed. And the second show, and that was one show. And then the second show was going to be on the history of my shop, which was only supposed to be one show, but instead it ended up being 2 shows because I guess I didn't realize I had so much history to relate to my audience. And the third show was on my ceiling and the installation, which was really the main focus of the entire project. It was the ceiling and how I put it together and all of the little aspects about it. It ended up being 4 shows. So this is the 4th show you're watching right now in the 3rd part of this little mini-series that I'm doing on my wood shop. I appreciate those of you who are sitting through all of this. The 4th show coming up after this one will be on lighting and paint. Now, I have to say that I don't know whether that show will be split into 2 or 3 or 150. More than likely, I can't imagine that I don't have any more to say than would fill up one show. So I'm betting on 1 on that one. And then the last show was on logistics. And in truth, I could see that probably being 2 shows because I'm probably going to have a lot to say on the logistics of the shop. In other words, how I set the shop up and where all of the machines are and kind of go over some of the purposes of them. And it'll also include my workbenches and other little aspects that I've put into my shop. But I just wanted to make this announcement because I didn't record this back when I put this all together. I didn't realize in the beginning that it would, instead of being 5 shows so far, this is the 7th show in this series. At any rate, I just want to thank you for listening to this. I hope you're finding it interesting. I will get to politics on a future show when I finish this series and other things, history, and I'd like to go over, like I said, some of the tarot stuff that I've been studying, and a lot of it, of course, on the politics is my opinion, and there is so much on politics going on now. I am chomping at the bit to get in front of the camera, behind the microphone, and talk about what these idiots in Washington, D.C. are doing. Oh, look at there. I'm getting into politics, and I didn't mean to. So let's get on with the show. This one is the 4th and last part I will be saying about putting up the ceiling in my wood shop. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you at the end of the show. Now, something else you're going to have to deal with when you're putting up any kind of ceiling, most especially the metal ceiling that I put up, and that is that you're going to have an outlet. I had this outlet. This outlet originally was meant for the garage door opener, and I had a garage door opener in here that came with a house some 15 years ago. It worked the first week we were in, and then it stopped working, and I never replaced it. I just got used to opening the garage door up and down for 15, 16, well, let's see, almost 17 years. Just open it up and close it all the time. So, but I never, in all those years, it never occurred to me that I could have taken the garage door opener down because it wasn't ever going to work, and there was really no reason in keeping it, and it just kind of hung around and collected dust and spider webs. I should have taken it down, well over a decade ago. But for whatever reason, we don't think of things when we could, and I didn't. And so, but then when the ceiling collapsed and I was doing all this work, I thought, why do I have this useless garage door opener? So I took it down. I needed to take it down anyway to put the ceiling up. And I certainly wasn't going to put a broken garage door opener back up. And eventually, at some point, if I put in another garage door opener, it'll be put in by professionals, and I'll let them worry about it. But this plug right here was intended, and it's on a separate breaker. There's two breakers in here. One is over on the wall that operates all the machinery, and the other one is right here. It's meant to handle all of the electricity and the lights for the garage door opener. But right now what it's doing is it's my light plug. So I have all of my lights plugged in right here, and there's not that many. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 lights, and they're low wattage LEDs, and they plug in right here. Now, in cutting the hole and measuring it, much like the garage door fasteners that connect in, I did much the same thing. I took a lot of pictures. I went in and I measured how far this was from the other ceiling joists. I was very, very careful. In this case, it wasn't about drilling and making sure I hit the exact hole. In this case, I needed to make a hole. So the hole in the metal is just slightly smaller than the overall casing on the cover of the electricity outlet. I went very, very carefully. I cut it out, I put it up, mashed it up, realized that, I could take a little bit more off, because the trick is that you need to cut enough off so your plug is exposed, fully exposed, but you don't want to cut too much off to where your plate isn't going to cover up all of your hole. So there's this margin you have to work in. And so I remember I pulled it down and I cut it, and then I matched it, and I thought, okay, I could take off a little more. I think I did that about twice, and it wasn't that big of a deal just to put it up here and line it up. Of course, you have to put up the whole sheet and line it up. Actually, I think I did it I took it down and put it up once, and then the next time I drilled it in. The first one that I put up was a 12-foot sheet, and it had to be a complete hole. The second one, fortunately, in other words, these that are 10 feet on this side of the garage, these came in and these happened to be right there on the seam. So in this case, all I had to do is measure exactly where this one cut would be and put that in. On the one on this plate that I put in, I actually had to drill a big hole first and then get my shears in and start slowly cutting it out. Now, my friend Tom, he had suggested using a hacksaw on all of the different cuts that I did on the ceiling. And I didn't. I didn't go with a hacksaw. Instead, I went with a pair of hand shears, which basically are like scissors. And if you put enough effort into it and make sure your cuts are precise, then it will turn out exactly as you intend. Anyway, that's how I did the electrical outlet. Now, originally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the light in your garage, because everybody always has that one light bulb that's up in your garage, aside from your garage door opener, or the one that comes with the garage door opener. And of course, I had originally a light bulb, it was right here in this area, right here. It's obviously not there now. What I did with it, and I struggled thinking about that, but I thought, why do I need that one light there when I'm gonna put shop lights in, new ones? I didn't really ever use that light. Now, the advantage is that light is controlled by a switch on the interior of the library, and then also there's a switch here in the garage if you want to turn it on. And I decided, okay, I don't have a light in the attic. So I simply took that light, unscrewed the mounting, stretched it into the attic, and right now it's attached up in the attic to the rafters or the studs up there, so that when I do turn these on, I have a light in the attic. I simply ceilinged over that part where the light would have been. It's up to you what you want to do, but that's what I did. It was easier. It was just one less hole I had to cut. And there really wasn't a whole lot of reason to go to the effort of putting that in. Plus, I wanted to light up in my attic. And now I'll talk more about the lighting later on, because at the time I did debate on whether I wanted to take those electrical wires, connect them in with these new lights. But I'll cover that in the next show, in my lighting and painting show on the shop. Now, another feature that I had to work around on the ceiling, and that was the trap door to the attic. And I know a lot of you may have trap doors to your attic. We have actually two trap doors in the house. One is on the interior of the house in the hallway going to the children's bedrooms. And then the other one is right here in the garage. And actually, a few years ago, we had our air conditioner replaced. And the gentleman who replaced the ladder in the interior of the house had offered to come back at a later date, and for an extra $150 or so, he offered to come in and put in a wider door because we had a more narrow door right here. And he said he had an extra one and he was willing to sell it to me for a decent price. And so I told him to come back, and he did install. This is a wider door. In working in this part of working in the ceiling on this trapdoor, I have to admit, I don't know if it was the most difficult part, but because the very ends were kind of difficult. But I would say this is very challenging because you wanted it to be as right as possible. In other words, you want your ceiling panels to come up to the very edge as near as you can. And also, you're cutting it with shears, like I said before. So what I did is I, again, took lots of pictures as it used to be, as it was before I put the panels up. And I measured from the end of the ceiling to the opening of the attic. I measured that, and then I also measured exactly how far, because there's one panel and two panels. So fortunately for me, I only had to cut two panels to get in here. So what I had to do is I couldn't simply shear it straight across, because the way this is configured and where it's located, I ended up having to take two 10-foot sheets and basically cut a box out of each one so they were continuous on one side, 10 feet. It ended up being really nice. I mean, it was a pain to put this together. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm very pleased with the result. And as you can see, I'm not gonna pull the whole thing down. One other thing I'll talk about is that once I got this part up and in place, which took a couple of days, I pulled this all the way down. And again, I'm not going to pull it all the way down, but I pulled this down, and then I put the two panels, the parts that I cut out, I cut right here and placed right here. And I did this myself without any help. All of the panels that went up, I had to have the assistance of my son, Alexander, because it takes two men to put this up. And the only other thing I'll say about the trap door is that the added weight of the metal, which isn't much, it's not that much weight, but the little bit of added weight, it causes this. So before the trap door I'd pull it down. You have to pull a lot of tension on it because of the springs right here, and it would stay down. But once you folded the ladder up and got it going, it would snap back up. The little bit of added weight to the trap door has caused it to where I push it up and it only goes up this far, but it's no problem at all. All I have to do is push it back up and it stays exactly as it's supposed to. So all in all, this part I'm very, very pleased with.